Oh, gosh, I hate Jamie. Welcome to the show. Jamie's laughing at me. We haven't even started. Jamie's laughing at me. Welcome, everybody. It's Fantasy Football today. It's Thursday. We got 2 games to talk about. We got some DFS lineups of the top 6 tight ends in 2023. I found that to be a pretty difficult task to rank the top 6. I don't know if anybody feels the same way. Wide receiver was a piece of cake. Quarterback was fun. Running back was kind of fun and sort of easy. Tight end was tough. Tight end was tough. Anyone feeling that?
Well, 1 was easy.
1 and 2 were easy.
Is 2 easy?
Yeah, 2's easy.
Is it?
Everybody has Andrews, right? Who else would it be?
Everybody has Andrews. Well, I don't know if it's easy.
Who else would it be?
I mean, Hawkinson was pretty amazing with the Vikings.
Yeah, against the Giants, sure.
Dallas Goedert was great when he was healthy.
That's gonna be Andrews.
Kittle was pretty amazing with Purdy.
See, this is tough. This is tough stuff right here.
So I had the top. Yeah, I think 6 is hard. I think if you were doing a top 4, it would be easy. But like determining which of the next 3 or 4 guys get to be 6 is difficult.
I hate my number 3 tight end. Hate it. Who's the number 3 for you?
Hawkinson.
Yeah, I went with Goddard.
Why do you hate it?
Because it breaks the rule. Like, you got to be top 2 on your team in targets to be a top 5 tight end, except for 2 of the tight ends who did it this year. But he's not going to be that. But he's just so good. He's not going to be that.
He's not going to be second?
No. He's not going to out-target Brown or Smith. It's not going to happen.
Oh, I was thinking Hawkinson. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's not going to.
But there were 2 tight ends who finished in the top 6 in PPR this year that were not 1 or 2 on their team in targets. That was George Kittle and Evan Ingram. They were both top 6 tight ends. Kittle was number 3. Ingram was number 5 overall. And they were both 3rd on their team in targets. So rules are meant to be broken. Let's talk about tight ends in just a little bit. Let's start with our picks and predictions for the weekend. Heath, what do you think? Are the Chiefs going to win? Let's predict the games. Let's start with the AFC.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win. I don't want to bet against Patrick Mahomes, especially when everyone's doubting him and talking about how Joe Burrow's beat him 3 times in a row, and someone called it Burrowhead. I think the Chiefs. It's an outstanding. Like, I don't know which Bengals player that was, but that's an outstanding turn of phrase. But yeah, I think the Chiefs win 31-27.
Okay. They are now 1-point favorites. They were 1-point underdogs. Jamie, who do you like in that game?
I like the Bengals. I do think that, Mahomes not at 100% is a little concerning, so this is clearly not the best case scenario, but it's the best case of the scenario. The fact that he's been able to get through some semblance of practice and doesn't appear to be severely limited by this ankle, at least as of now. But I think if he's not 100%, he's the difference maker. And if he's not going to be the difference maker, the Bengals, I think, have, aside from Kelsey, almost an advantage everywhere else.
Not offensive line.
Not offensive line, but if for whatever reason Jonah Williams and Karras play, it's closer.
It's closer. That's a huge strength for the Chiefs, though. And
but you would have said that last year too, right?
I'm picking the Bengals, so you don't have to convince me too much. Yeah, I'm concerned about Mahomes. He did not throw a single pass outside the pocket after his ankle injury last week. He led the NFL in pass attempts outside the pocket during the regular season. So obviously last week he was not himself. They keep saying, very optimistic things, but a high ankle sprain to come back that quickly and be yourself. I don't think he's going to have the mobility.
I was shocked he was jogging at practice yesterday. Like I didn't expect him to practice yesterday. I didn't expect him to practice today. I thought maybe he'd get a limited practice on Friday. I always thought he would play, but and this could be wrong, but I would just think if you had a concern about how good his ankle is going to be on Sunday, you would not let him jog at practice on Wednesday.
Maybe. So that's, I think I would probably pick the Bengals anyway. I just feel like they've been underrated. They are underrated, but I felt really confident in them last week. I don't feel quite as confident this week in Burrowhead.
I don't think they're underrated anymore.
Probably not, but I think they were as up until Sunday. They were.
It's interesting. Like, what is it about them that makes them so much better in the playoffs than the regular season?
Well, they've been really good, right? So they got off to a slow start and they lost 3 games or something on a last-second field goal. If I'm doing this off the top of my head, I don't know, but I feel like they got off to a bad start record-wise, but they had some bad luck. They've probably been just pretty awesome since then. But what is it? Burrow never turns the ball over. That's huge. I don't know, man. Their defense 2 years in a row just has gotten better. But the Chiefs too. Look at how good the Chiefs defense was last week, and now I kind of poo-pooed it last week, but they did it again, and they're doing that same thing where they get better as the season goes on. That might be lower scoring game. What's the total here? That would be 47. Might be a low scoring game.
I hope Mahomes is close to 100%. I mean, clearly he's not going to be 100%, but it would be a shame to be robbed of these two teams at their best. Going head to head. And obviously the Bengals offensive line is not going to be 100%, so they have that issue to deal with. But I mean, you knew you were going to get two titanic matchups because of Cincinnati, Buffalo facing in the divisional round, and then Kansas City, if they got by, getting one of those two teams. And so last week's game was disappointing because the Bills, played the way they did. And we'll see if this game can hopefully live up to hype.
All right, let's talk about the NFC game. It's actually the earlier game, 3:00 on Sunday, 49ers at Eagles. Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. The total is 46. Heath, you took the Chiefs. Who are you taking in the NFC?
I will take the Eagles. I'm just going to keep betting against Brock Purdy until he wins the Super Bowl. I will. I'll say that one's going to be 27-17 Eagles.
Okay, so they're winning and covering. Jamie, how about you?
I'll take the Eagles as well. I think just being at home is a big advantage for them. I agree with Heath. It just feels like at some point Purdy's going to lose. But you made the case. You weren't on the show, Heath, yesterday. Adam said the Eagles are the greatest team of all time.
He actually said that on Wednesday as well, or on Tuesday as well, or Monday, whenever. Yeah.
I didn't say that ever, but I do think they're a tremendous team and they win and cover. But
I do think that they win and cover as well.
Yeah, the Hurts thing is interesting because like I said, I don't think he looked 100% running the ball. He seemed very hesitant when he was running the ball, shying away from contact. Just didn't seem like himself in that regard. Obviously, he was good enough throwing the ball last week. This is going to be a different beast for sure. Then you got the injuries to McCaffrey and Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. They'll probably all play, but they're not 100% healthy. So we're all taking the Eagles to win and cover. 2 Bengals picks. Heath is sticking with his Chiefs, and we'll give you some DFS stuff a little bit later. We also have a DFS podcast. The episode's in this feed. It drops on Thursdays. So I actually listened to last week's episode. They do a great job. And one thing they said was, if you want to do some DFS, don't be afraid to do some cash games. So, we talk about tournaments all the time, but cash games can be very profitable as well. And you can use your cash games to bankroll your tournaments. We have a Facebook group if you want to join the discussion and talk with other fantasy football players. Just go to Facebook, search for Fantasy Football Today. The link is in the episode description, and it's a lot of fun. Throughout the season, you'll get some start-sit advice, some trade advice, those types of things, and just be in the community with other listeners and viewers and people who just love fantasy football. Here are your news and notes. We have a new offensive coordinator to tell you about. That in a moment. But as I mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, and Deebo Samuel all dealing with injuries. And we hope that they are healthy. For McCaffrey, it's a calf injury, and he could not finish the game last week. Cincinnati offensive linemen Jonah Williams and Alex Kappa missed practice. Seattle wants to re-sign Geno Smith. And the big news, Jamie, the Jets are hiring Nathaniel Hackett as their offensive coordinator.
I did like that Adam Schefter, when he tweeted it out, he said, fodder for New York sports radio for the next several weeks. Yeah, it's going to be debated. I have one of my cousins is a big Jets fan, and I was with him this weekend in Houston. And the one thing he would say is like, "Don't hire Hackett, please don't hire Hackett. I don't want to see Hackett on the coaching staff," and that's what they did. You want to connect the dots. Aaron Rodgers is being rumored to an AFC team, and this probably is only going to make that rumor more pressing. So we'll see if that's the next domino that falls, if they make the move to go get Rodgers, which I guess can make sense given the Jets roster and their potential to be a competitive team right away. So I don't think you should judge Hackett based on his Broncos experience for what he did for, the Packer, or how he helped the Packers offense and what he was doing for, Rodgers as a quarterback guy. He wasn't the full-time play caller clearly in Green Bay, so that's something to take into account. I don't think you can, at least I hope, you can mess up Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson when they're healthy. So it's just a matter of they get the right quarterback in place. I think things will be okay.
Well, can you mess up Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I don't think he messed up Jerry Jeudy.
As the head coach, you probably can. As the play caller, I hope not.
Well, there's a lot of guys who have been not very good head coaches who were very good coordinators and went back to being good coordinators after they were not very good head coaches.
But he never called plays.
Right.
That's the difference. And as soon as he started calling plays in Denver, it didn't go well. And then when he left, they changed things up.
He called plays before he was not in Green Bay, but he called plays in Jacksonville.
Okay, I'm sorry. He didn't call plays in Green Bay. Was he good in Jacksonville? Would they have a good offense?
He was the offensive coordinator when they had the number 5 offense in the NFL and went to the AFC Championship game.
Okay, so the Bortles year. Anyway, yeah, I mean when they changed things up after he was fired, and they unlocked some things on their offense in Denver. So that was not a good look for Hackett. They did a lot more play action, I believe. Maybe got him out of the pocket a little bit more. Wilson, that is. But okay, so what do you think, Heath, for the Jets with Hackett?
I think he'll probably be like average-ish. I think it's probably going to have a lot more to do with who the quarterback is than who the offensive coordinator is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's talk about tight ends. Top 6 tight ends. First question we got is from Scott. Are you guys moving TJ Hawkinson ahead of Mark Andrews? So we did not do that, but you both have TJ Hawkinson third. So what's the gap between Andrews and Hawkinson?
I would think in terms of rounds, to me, Andrews is at best a 3rd round pick. And I would say Hawkinson is probably a 5th round pick.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot to find out about Mark Andrews, maybe. Let's see what kind of offense they're running and who his quarterback is. But assuming everything's the same, I found it real interesting. I wrote about Andrews this morning for my Dynasty Tight End Tiers column that should be out later today. And he averaged more fantasy points with Lamar Jackson last year than he did with Lamar Jackson the year before. He was 14.9 fantasy points per game in his fantastic 2021 year with Lamar Jackson. The games they both played at least 20% of the snaps. Last year, the games they both played at least 20% of the snaps, he was 15.4 fantasy points per game with Lamar Jackson. And I put some Twitter polls out, like what's 15, because I didn't want to use the name because I know some people are kind of down on him. But I do think if he can get back to that 15 fantasy points per game and the tight end landscape stays what it was last year, then he's a borderline round 2 pick.
Hawkinson was at 12.6 points per game, and so was Mark Andrews.
I think you could make an adjustment to Hawkinson's as well, just because I don't think he played the entire game in Week 18 and had like 4 points. But yeah, Hawkinson has not shown us the upside that Mark Andrews has over more than like one game at a time.
Right. And really, if you take away that Giants game, his tenure with the Vikings wasn't special or anything like that. But if let's take his 17 game pace.
That's not fair.
In 9 games.
His first game with against Washington was good.
9 catches for 70 yards. Is that the number 2 tight? Is that a guy that's moving ahead of Mark Andrews? No. I mean, if
he had 16 fantasy points per game, then yeah.
Okay, yes, of course he'd be. Yeah. If you're getting that consistently, of course.
Yeah, give him that consistently. Okay, but then you just made it out to be some incredible game. It was a good game. And the thing, he had a lot of catches.
9 for 70 for a tight end is a pretty incredible game.
Yes, he had a lot of catches with the Vikings. They threw the ball a ton. He had a ton of targets. His pace in the first 9 games he played with Minnesota, so not including Week 18 when he played 46% of the snaps, his pace was 111 catches, 950 yards, and 6 touchdowns on 161 targets. That is a ton of volume and a ton of catches, but not really a lot of production to go with the targets and catches.
I would take him second if he's doing that again.
I would take him second if he's getting 161 targets. Do you think he's going to do that?
Well, I think Adam Thielen might be gone. And if no one of significance is brought in return, they draft somebody day 2. Yes, I think.
So put him second. So what are you waiting for? Put him second.
No, but I think we got to see. Like he said, if the Ravens have a new quarterback and it's not, anybody good, then it's easy to take Hawkinson second.
Put it this for Mark Andrews, right? He's just been such a victim of being on this low pass volume team. He has had, in his last 2 years, 32%. If you look at his yards per game, Mark Andrews' yards per game, compare that to the team's passing yards per game. He's been at 32% and 30% of his team's yards per game. Travis Kelce the last 2 years, 24.2% and 25.5%. I mean, put Mark Andrews on an offense that's going to throw the ball more, and it wouldn't even be a question, right? I mean, but.
And I think they probably will be an offense that's going to throw the ball more.
I would hope so. Anyway, all right. So you guys have Hawkins in third. What did I have him? I had him fifth. Why? Why did I have him fifth? I hate my rankings. Well, here's why. Because I don't think he's a special player, and I think Dallas Goedert has really shown a lot of ability. I mean, 2 straight years where he's been number 1 amongst tight ends and top 6 overall amongst all receivers in yards per target. And Darren Waller is 4 for me, and then Hawkinson. And
That's
those guys,
Waller.
Why though? I mean, look what he did when he came back from the injury. He was playing half the snaps, and he was having good games. He's such a talented player.
You like him on New England?
No, I'm not going to like him on New England. But his per game PPR per game last 4 seasons 6th, 2nd, 6th, and 7th. So it's a high floor for Waller.
And I
know what he can do.
Like, I'm not as impressed with what he did when he came back, I don't think, as you are. 3 for 48, 3 for 48, 4 for 58, 3 for 72, 2 for 35.
Yeah, that's really good when he's playing 60% of his usual snap share.
Well, he wasn't.
Stidham. Yes, he's a guy who could play 90%. He was playing like 50%.
Yeah, in the 4 weeks, he was 70 to 80%, and then he was 50, 70%.
Well, in the past, whatever. For a guy who's playing 50% of the snaps, toward the end of the season, I thought it was impressive. But okay.
There's so much uncertainty with him, especially even age.
Yeah. Old. All right, so why don't you guys break down your rankings? Kelce 1, Andrews 2, Hawkinson 3, Heath, what's 4, 5, 6 for you?
That's the part that is the most difficult. I think those first 3 for me, and Kittle, and I've got Kittle up there at number 4. I don't know what I had at the end of the season, but that's where I have.
You had Kittle. You had Kittle 3, Hawkinson 4.
Okay, so yeah, and then trying to decide between Goddard, Pitts, and Waller for 5, 6, 7. I'll go Goddard 5, and then I'm going to go Pitts at 6.
Hey, Jamie, how about you?
I have it right now: Kelce, Andrews, Hawkinson, Goddard 4, Kittle 5, Waller 6.
Kittle. And I had one more argument for Dallas Goedert.
Good.
AJ Brown and Devontae Smith did not miss a game. Imagine how much better Goddard would be if one of those guys got hurt. He's got that upside, where he could get that value. If he got the same type of target volume that Hawkinson got, I think he'd be so much better. So he's obviously, I can't rank him based on, these guys are going to get hurt, but if it did happen, he's got that upside. I don't really know that there's a scenario.
If that's the game you want to play, what would Hawkinson be if Justin Jefferson got hurt?
I don't think he'd be on pace for more than 161 targets. I don't think he'd get more targets.
Well, I mean, you can't say he might not get better.
I feel like Goddard would get a target boost.
What you also can't do is say that Goddard will get a target boost and remain the most efficient tight end in fantasy, because it's much easier to be efficient when you're getting the type of target volume that he is than the target volume that Hawkinson is.
Well, fine, but he still would get more targets, and it would still be good, and he'd still be more efficient than Hawkinson, I think.
I think he probably would. And I think he's very good. It's just, we've been kind of waiting for Dallas Goedert to be an elite tight end for 5 years now. And I'm not calling him an elite tight end. I'm just not calling Hawkinson that. No.
It's only 1, maybe 2. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of how it is. All right,
if he's getting 160 targets, he's elite.
Well, I would agree with that in terms of fantasy.
He wasn't elite. Like, he just got 161 targets, and he wasn't elite.
No, he was on pace for that. He didn't get that.
Yeah, but what he did in those games was not elite.
It was close. From weeks 10 from weeks 10 through 17, he was 13.9 PPR fantasy points per game. I think 15 is probably elite. So it was very close.
And he did that without an off season to learn everything that he's going to learn.
Okay. All right. So you guys would go Hawkinson 3, and then Heath goes Kittle, Goddard, Pitts. Amy goes Goddard, Kittle, Waller, with, I guess, Pitts 7.
Where did I have Pitts? I might have had him lower than that. I have Pitts at 7, yes.
What do you make of Kittle? Because he did finish number 2 per game. 5 points behind Kelsey, but 1 point ahead of Andrews and Hawkinson. Caught 11 touchdowns, which is insane for him, for any 49er, but it happened. And
I think 8 of those came with Purdy, right?
Oh, maybe. But obviously a lot of it came without Debo. And he looked like pretty much a bust when Debo and Ayuk were, it's the same story, right? So what do you make of Kittle? Like, does he need an injury to one of those guys, or maybe Ayuk to not be there to be worth, probably going to go in the 6th round or something like that?
So he said something in the post-game interview after beating the Cowboys about Purdy when he was asked about him by Aaron Andrews. And he said he does a great job of getting his playmakers the ball. And I think that's kind of a little telling because, you see his targets haven't exactly spiked, but he's kind of been living in that 6 to 8 target range with Brock Purdy. And I think if he's getting consistently that, at least based on what he does when he has the ball in his hands, as long as he doesn't slow down by any stretch, and I don't know if that's going to happen next year. He's so good. This team is so good at creating yards after catch. So 4 for 95 is what he gave you against Dallas. He's capable of obviously being a red zone threat and scoring now, at least based on what we saw this season. So I think, he's not in the conversation like he was a few years ago when he came off that huge season where it was, is he the second best tight end? And that's clearly, not something that he's been able to produce at consistently. But to be a top 5 guy, top 6, whatever you want to say, I think that's kind of where he's should be ranked. And you should hope that he stays healthy, because that's been a problem for him as well. If he stays healthy and Purdy is the quarterback, you're probably looking at pretty good production. I don't know if elite production, but good production.
What do you think, Heath?
Yeah, I just think he is maybe the best of those guys who we don't think are going to be elite, but are good, must start, no doubt about it, tight ends.
Okay, and then Waller versus Pitts. So Heath's going with Pitts and Jamie's going with Waller at number 6. Heath, give me the Pitts side.
Well, I think there are enormous question marks about both of these guys going into next year. We don't know who their quarterback's going to be. We don't know exactly what the offense around them is going to look like. But they're both talented. One of them is going to be 22 years old. One of them is going to be 31 years old. I'm going to go with the 22-year-old for now.
Give me the Waller argument.
I mean, just you've seen it from him. Like you said, Adam, he came back from the hamstring injury, and I think it was hamstring, and played fairly well on limited snaps. He did that with Stidham for 2 games. And so we'll see what the quarterback situation is. I would hope it's somebody better than Stidham. If it's Tom Brady, then I think that's a great asset for him to have in this offense, as long as there's no Gronk coming along with him. But I think if the quarterback upgrade is significant enough that Darren Waller can bounce back, and if he stays healthy, he has a chance to be a top 5 tight end again. So you got to build age into it. You got to build in the fact that Devontae Adams is now the alpha on that team in terms of the passing game, and we'll see if Renfro stays or if somebody else is brought in to compete with that. Plus, you have what Josh Jacobs did as the leading rusher, so keep that in mind if he's back as well. But I think, Waller to me is very similar to Kittle, where exactly what Heath said. He's not going to be elite anymore. At least I don't expect him to be, but still good enough that you'll start him and good enough that he can be a top 5 guy.
If you gave Mark Andrews, Darren Waller, Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson, Kyle Pitts, and George Kittle, basically every tight end we've talked about today except for Kelsey, if you gave them all.
No. Are you betting Andrews there too?
I said Andrews, yeah. I thought I did. Yeah, so 2 through 7, right? So those 6 tight ends, Andrews, Goddard, Kittle, Pitts, Waller, and Hawkinson. Gave them all the same amount of targets. Should we do from the same quarterback? No, the same amount of targets. Who would be first and who would be last?
Who are their quarterbacks?
The same ones they had this year. Lamar Jackson, not Mariota. Let's say Desmond Ridder, Hurts, Purdy. I can't say Derek Carr. I don't know. Jared Stidham.
Well, why aren't you giving him Carr?
Because it's not going to be Carr next year.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Your best guess for next year, I guess.
Brady.
Fine, Brady.
So I would say it would be Andrews, Kittle, Goddard, Hawkinson, Pitts, Waller.
Andrews, Hawkinson, Goddard, Kittle, Waller.
Hawkinson's second. So I thought he'd be last. That's kind of my argument. Is he's like the least dynamic of this group, and needs a target advantage to be really good in fantasy. Whereas the other guys,
I just went with the same way I had it ranked.
Oh, that's not fair. Wow, not even playing the game. All right. Well, thank you for participating. I do appreciate that. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the weekend slate. We'll do some DFS. And boy, it's a lot of fun when you get a notification from DraftKings that your winnings have been deposited. And then you remember a $2 head-to-head, a $2 50-50. You're like, oh, that doesn't really do anything for me. But okay, glad I played. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Let's talk DFS. And who's your favorite stack for the weekend, Jamie?
My favorite stack for the weekend is the Bengals. I think it's going to be very popular, but Joe Burrow, based on his price, he's the third highest quarterback. And given his history against the Chiefs, he's averaging over 320 yards per game in his 3 games against them. He's got 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Had a 33-point game against them in Week 13. And so just looking at him and Chase and Higgins and Boyd, some combination of 2 of those guys, I think it's easy to do. And so we've seen the Chiefs during the regular season, 3rd in fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks and passing games. So I think that's the easiest stack to look at and hopefully comes through. Again, will be very popular though.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's definitely the best. Yeah, it's definitely the most popular stack. It's definitely the top stack of the weekend. I wonder if Mahomes is contrarian.
I think
if I could play Mahomes / Kelsey / McKinnon or Mahomes / Kelsey / Tony at half the roster rate of the Burrow Bengals stack, then I think the Chiefs stack would be my favorite. I don't really want to stack the Eagles or the 49ers.
Why not I get the 49ers. Why not the Eagles?
The 49ers have a really good defense. And it's tougher to stack the Eagles because there's 3 pass catchers, and one of those guys is probably going to lose out bigly.
Devontae Smith makes me the most nervous.
Why?
Because he's probably going to see the most of Ward. Where both line up.
Yeah. I don't know. Like sometimes they shadow with Ward. Sometimes they don't. They probably won't. You would think.
And AJ Brown just kind of complained a little bit.
Right. Tony is the guy that makes the stack possible for the Chiefs. He's 3,700 on DraftKings. He's just so much. And look, he hasn't really been that good, but he's got that potential, and he's much cheaper than most of the wide receivers that you want to play. What the hell are we going to do at running back this week?
I have, just kind of what we're talking about here. One lineup that I built already was Burrow, Chase, and Higgins, and then bringing it back with McKinnon and Tony on the other side, and then playing A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. So that's kind of how I rounded out. So I think McKinnon and Tony are easy to, balance the Bengal stack if that's the route you want to go, because they are cheap. And I do think McKinnon bounces back. He was terrible last week for where he's been. First game without a target all season. His touchdown streak ended. He had a 6-game receiving streak that started in Week 13 against the Bengals. So he had 8 carries for 51 yards in that game as well. So I think, people will look at Pacheco's stat line and say, okay, maybe he's the guy you want to look at. For me, I'd go the other way. I think you take out his 39-yard run. It's a miserable stat line that he had last week against the Jaguars. And he did that with Henny under center. So I think, you said this, Adam, about Mahomes with his ankle injury, wasn't really escaping the pocket. To me, that's how Andy Reid sort of counters this with a lot of design plays for Jerick McKinnon, because I think those are easy routes. And I think the same thing with Tony.
Who are some, bargain basement guys to help you fill out your lineup?
Tyler Boyd's one of my favorites.
All right, I'll get him in there. I'm going to have to take Jamar Chase out, though. Making a DraftKings lineup. I would put AJ Brown in. That's fine. Yeah, I think Kadarius Toney's going to be very popular. Kadarius Toney's cheaper than Tyler Boyd on DraftKings.
Yep.
Heath, how about you? Any like deep sleepers?
Yeah. I mean, I would probably say that it's like a one of the Chiefs non-Kelsey tight ends. They've thrown quite a few passing touchdowns this year to tight ends not named Travis Kelce. And so maybe you could get a Noah Gray or a Blake Bell on he's their quarterback sneak guy. So maybe one of those guys.
Jamie, did you do rankings for this week?
I did, yes.
So how do you rank the quarterbacks?
I rank the quarterbacks. I do it based on who I think is going to get the Super Bowl. So I had Hurts 1, Burrow 2, Mahomes 3, and Purdy 4.
Okay, so
but that's more playoff challenges.
You guys rank them. Why don't you rank the quarterbacks just based on this week?
This week would be Hurts 1, Burrow 2, Mahomes 3, and Purdy 4. I mean, just, it's the fact that Mahomes is not 100%. If you tell me right now he's 100%, I would probably put him ahead of Burrow just because of the upside. I think what we got from him in the AFC Championship game a year ago is probably something that's replicable because they're going to throw a ball a lot. So he was 275, 3 and 2. And so I think that's something that, you can look at and say is probably something that could happen again. Remember, he didn't have a good game against them in week 13. Now, they didn't have the ball very much, and he was limited, but it's one of his worst games. Bengals have not yet to allow a quarterback to go over 22 points, and they did a great job against Josh Allen last week. He had a rushing touchdown to save him a little bit. That got him to 16 points. So, give this defense credit. They've been fantastic all season long.
Yeah, they've had such an easy schedule, but last week kind of debunked that. They finally played a good quarterback. Heath, any thoughts on how would you rank them this week?
I don't think I see an enormous game for any of the 4 quarterbacks. And so for DFS purposes, I might just put a couple Purdy lineups out there.
Okay. I feel like I have a pretty decent feel for, what to expect or who to play in the Bengals Chiefs. I don't know how you guys feel. And obviously, like, you want the Bengals passing game. We already talked about McKinnon is not really a Pacheco game. Kelsey's Kelsey, and then Mahomes is a gamble because of the ankle, and Tony is their emerging wide receiver. He's cheaper than Juju, whatever. Mixon, let's get to Mixon real quick, and then we'll move on to San Francisco, Philadelphia. Mixon, to me, I really felt like the Bills were very hampered by the conditions. Just couldn't tackle, couldn't seem to get their footing, and Mixon took advantage of it. But the Chiefs do not have a good run defense, and he was very good against them in the first game. Do you like Joe Mixon?
He didn't play in the first game.
Perine was great against them in the first game.
Yes.
Do you like Mixon this week?
I think he has the chance to be the best running back this weekend based on his price. So you got to factor in McCaffrey with the calf injury taking on the Eagles' run defense, which we know has been spotty at times, but I think has certainly turned the corner lately, especially with Jordan Davis back. So they have allowed 3 total touchdowns in their last 7 games. McCaffrey is the most expensive running back. He's got a 8-game scoring streak, which coincides with every game that Brock Purdy has played, in factoring the Dolphins game when he took over for Garoppolo. So he's got to have, I think, a huge game to justify that. Now, he had 17 PPR points last week, which is good, but it's not worth what he's costing you. And so I think that makes him a little bit risky. So Mixon's coming off, again, a game where you alluded to, Adam, maybe the conditions helped him. His first 100-yard game since that Carolina game when he went for 154.
Right.
I think it was 154, but he had 54 fantasy points. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it was first 100-yard game since week 9. And the Chiefs just gave up 80 total yards and a touchdown to ETN on only 10 carries and 3 catches. So I think if you expect the Bengals to win, you're probably looking at Mixon in the 15-plus carry range and probably 3 catches, which is what he's been essentially for the majority of his last 5 games. So 18, 20 total touches. I think that's a good buy based on his cost.
All right. Heath, let's talk about the Eagles and the 49ers. The 49ers obviously have a great run defense. They're not great against wide receivers. What do you think about the Eagles passing game and Jalen Hurts in general?
I'm probably staying away from Dallas Goedert because they are great against tight ends. I like McCaffrey if he's healthy. If we think McCaffrey's okay, Even last week, like Saquon Barkley only had 9 carries against the Eagles, but he turned them into 61 yards.
Right.
I don't think they're going to stop Christian McCaffrey if he's okay. And I think that the Shanahan has to know that the path to winning this game is having success on the ground. I would prefer, I think, A.J. Brown over Devontae Smith and Ayuk over Deebo Samuel. And Kittle over Dallas.
Why Ayuk over Deebo?
I'm just not 100% sure about Deebo's health.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get some lineups then. Let's do it.
I'll go last.
Okay. Jamie, what do you have? FanDuel, DraftKings, both?
Well, I just gave you my DraftKings one. I'll give you my FanDuel one.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Hurts at quarterback. I'm playing the same running backs in both lineups that I'm putting on the site. I'll play a McCaffrey lineup. I'll play some other combinations as well, but Mixon and McKinnon in this lineup as well. A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, and Kadarius Toney. I will play Goddard because I don't think the 49ers are particularly that great against tight ends, especially when they're getting featured. And then Tyler Boyd at flex, and I'm just going to play the Bengals defense across the board because if Mahomes is not Mahomes, you get some turnovers, and that's always a good thing for the cost.
Okay, so who was your quarterback?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Okay.
Mixon and McKinnon at running back.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Kadarius Toney at receiver. Goddard at tight end. Tyler Boyd at flex, and the Bengals DST.
Yeah. No, we have almost the same FanDuel lineup, except you go Hurts and A.J. Brown. I go Burrow and Jamar Chase. But I also have Mixon and McKinnon. I also have Higgins and Kadarius Toney. I also have Dallas Goedert. I couldn't put any more Bengals in, unfortunately, so I went with the 49ers DST, and I wanted Tyler Boyd at flex. Instead, I have Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which I don't like so much, but you got to find some inexpensive player there. So
the tricky week.
Yeah, sure, certainly. Jamie and I both have Mixon, McKinnon, Higgins, and Toney and Goddard in our FanDuel lineup. Difference is I have Burrow and Chase. He has Hurts and A.J. Brown. He has the Bengals DST. I have the Niners. He has Tyler Boyd. I have MVS. Heath, what do you have?
Nothing that I like so far, but right now I've got a Purdy McCaffrey lineup with McKinnon and Mixon as well. Mixon's in the flex. I've got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Quez Watkins at wide receiver, Kelsey at tight end, and the 49ers defense.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jamie. I wanted to get Kelsey in there. I did in my DraftKings lineup. But I don't know how you felt. Like you went Goddard, I went Goddard, Heath went Kelsey. We all have Mixon and McKinnon. And that's an interesting Purdy McCaffrey. Okay. All right. Anyway, you probably don't have a DraftKings lineup yet, right, Heath?
I do not.
Okay. My DraftKings lineup, I did it while you were talking about making a Chiefs stack earlier. So I went Mahomes, McKinnon, and Kelsey. I have Higgins and Mixon. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have Toney too. Mahomes, McKinnon, Toney, Kelsey. So 4 Chiefs. Mixon as my other running back. A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Eagles DST. So I have a lot of Chiefs and Bengals. I have
that's my favorite one I've heard yet.
Okay. Mahomes, McKinnon, Mixon.
You
AJ
like a
Brown,
Chiefs
Higgins,
no
Toney,
way.
Kelsey, Tyler Boyd, and the Eagles.
But you don't have as many like just guys that we don't actually want to play, but we're trying to fit somebody in.
I don't have any other. Tyler Boyd would be the one.
Right.
I mean, look,
there's gonna be somebody random, Quez Watkins type of guy, Juwan Jennings type of guy. Somebody's gonna have a player or two that, sways this for someone, because that's just the nature of how this goes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, you could be really creative and play a Chad Henne lineup and see, Mahomes leaves the game.
Don't even joke about that. No, you're right. I think we have a question from Apple Podcasts. Let me just look that up real quick here, because if you are going to be nice enough to leave us a nice 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, which you can still do, tell everybody why you like our show. You can leave us a question and we'll answer it. Did I kill enough time yet? Come on, load, PC load letter. All right, here we go. Keeper question from Wake Up 23. Full PPR 10-team league, 2 quarterbacks, 3 receivers, 2 flex, 2 running back. We need to pick 2 keepers here. Breece Hall, Josh Allen. Remember, it's 10 teams and it's 2 quarterbacks. Breece Hall, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Justin Jefferson, and CeeDee Lamb. Wow. Pick 2 of those. The quarterbacks?
Of course.
3 receivers and 2 flex and PPR.
You have two top 3 quarterbacks there. Good luck to everybody else in your league, and just go get everything else you need.
All right, Heath, what do you think?
It was Josh Allen and who?
Jalen Hurts, and
yeah,
there's
it's
also
definitely
Justin,
it's definitely
there's
the
also
quarterback.
Justin Jefferson, though.
Yeah, I think my first 3 picks would be Hurts versus Jefferson is the one I'm not sure of, but Allen for sure.
Okay. All right.
And you got to know how your league values quarterbacks. Like I'm in a 2 quarterback league where maybe one quarterback gets taken in the first round still. So you got to know how your league values quarterbacks. But
yeah. Right. That's my concern with taking Hurts because it's 3 receivers with 2 flexes and it's PPR. I wonder how fast the wide receivers go off the board. And
is it 4 point per pass touchdown or 6?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And do we lose the picks in the first round by keeping those guys?
Yes. Yeah.
So he doesn't have a pick until round 3.
Correct. But nobody does, right?
Well, it depends. Everybody's losing their first 2 picks, no matter what.
It seems that way. Does keepers count for round 1 and 2? Maybe you don't have to keep. Maybe you don't.
So
have
he
to
does have a first round pick, basically, because everybody has to do that.
Right. So he may be picking first, for all we know.
He said that going into last season, he kept Josh Allen and Justin Jefferson, and he won the championship. He's thinking about keeping Lamb and Jefferson. Don't do that. Definitely take one of the quarterbacks.
To Heath's point, though, if it's 4 points for passing touchdowns and quarterbacks are not as valuable, even though it's 2 QB league.
No, but those guys are even better than most of the other quarterbacks.
No, I would agree. But, if the position is extremely devalued, then maybe you don't keep one of them.
This makes me think of that time, Adam. Remember when you said that Patrick Mahomes was less valuable in 2 quarterback leagues?
Every quarterback is less valuable in 2 quarterback leagues, is what I was saying.
Yes, except we drafted them much earlier.
But they all get drafted much. All right. All right. It took 41 minutes for Heath to completely fluster me, but it happened. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the games. We will talk to you Monday with a recap. We'll get you set for the Super Bowl next time we talk. For Jamie and Heath and Thomas, I'm Adam.
Think we'll have a new head coach hire by then?
No.
None?
By when? By Monday or by the Super Bowl?
Monday.
I'm going to say no.
Will Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley have a new contract by then?
No, definitely not.
Will Derek Carr be traded by then?
There's not going to be one single interesting thing that happens in football before Monday, other than the games.
Some team will try and steal the spotlight and hire Sean Payton.
He's going back to TV, right? Could they put more people in that Fox studio, by the way? Like, they need a bigger...
I hear you're hired, by the way. So this is your last CBS show.
He wanted to wait and see if the Chargers would give Brandon Staley more than 1 more year. Okay. Wait for that Chargers job.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.